You're nothing but the forgotten shadow. We'll never celebrate, my parents barked at my 20th birthday. They twisted into the golden child's car party. Then watch your golden child crumble without me, I said, while cutting off accounts, filing fraud. But what came next at the doorstep? Silence them all. My name is William. I'm 20 years old, and in my family, I've always been the quiet one. Not really the outcast, just the one people don't pay attention to. The one often forgotten. My younger brother Jacob is 18. He's loud, confident, athletic, the type who grabs everyone's focus the second he walks into a room, and he knows it. My parents have always loved that about him. For years, I thought it was temporary. Or maybe I was just overthinking. But when my 20th birthday came, I stopped pretending. That was the moment I finally understood where I stood with my own family. That morning, I had just finished an overnight shift at the gas station. I took that job after school hours to save money for college. I was tired, but hopeful. I wasn't expecting presents, only a small sign that someone cared. Maybe just a happy birthday spoken out loud instead of a reminder from my phone. When I walked inside, I froze. The living room was decorated with balloons, a big banner that read, "Congratulations, Jacob," and a shiny set of car keys resting on the counter. My mom was grinning while finishing a homemade cake. My dad was right beside her, snapping photos of a brand new silver Honda Civic parked in the driveway. I stood at the doorway, still sweaty in my work uniform. Nobody noticed me. I coughed lightly. My mom finally glanced over and said, "Oh, William, you're back. Can you take out the trash? The bags are piling up, and guests are coming soon for Jacob's celebration." She spoke as if it were obvious. "Honey, Jacob passed his driving test yesterday and made varsity football. We're giving him a little party." Right then, I understood. It was my birthday, but everything was for Jacob. No cake with my name, no card, no sign I even mattered. I went into the kitchen, hoping maybe they'd left something for me, a note, a cupcake, anything small. There was nothing. "Hey," I whispered. "Did anyone remember?" Mom turned, holding a broom. "Your birthday? Of course. You're 20 now, an adult. We thought you'd want something useful." She handed me a big box wrapped in reused paper. I opened it. Inside was a mop and a plastic bucket. "For your future apartment," she said happily. "Time for you to take responsibility." I couldn't answer. My throat felt like fire. Out the window, I saw Jacob bragging about the car's Bluetooth to our cousins, revving the engine proudly. He didn't even look at me. I stood in the kitchen, holding that mop like it was a direct insult. Dad walked in, saw me standing there, and frowned. "Don't look so bitter, William. You've always been the serious one. Jacob's the one who still needs guidance and support. You're already grown up." I don't even remember how I ended up upstairs, but suddenly I was on my bed, staring at the small duffel bag I kept for late shifts. Something inside me broke, not with noise, but quietly, like a door shutting for good. I packed it with a few shirts, my laptop, and the cash I'd saved. No letter, no announcement. I walked downstairs with my head high, but my chest heavy. I passed through laughter, music, and cheering in the living room. Nobody noticed me, not even when I opened the front door and stepped outside into the sunlight. For the next few nights, I stayed at my coworker Daniel's place. He didn't ask questions, just gave me his spare room and a clean towel. I picked up extra shifts at the gas station and spoke as little as possible. My phone buzzed with group chat messages from my family, all jokes and updates about Jacob's big week. I ignored them. 3 days later, my mom started calling. I let the phone ring, then another call, then 5 from my dad. Finally, out of habit, I checked my voicemail. The first was from Mom, her voice tight but nervous. "William, please call us. We didn't think you were upset. Just come home, okay?" The second was from Dad. "Son, you're being childish. Come home, and we'll talk." The third message was different. This time, it was just Mom crying, "William, please. We never wanted to hurt you. I'm so sorry. Just come home. We miss you." I sat staring at the blank wall for what felt like forever. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Jacob. "Bro, they're losing it. What did you do?" I didn't answer. I powered the phone off. That evening, Daniel came to my door carrying a paper bag of food and a 6-pack of soda. We sat on the floor in his small living room, eating and watching old shows without saying much. After a while, I asked, "Do you ever feel like your family only cares about the parts of you that help them?" He was quiet at first, then said, "Every day." It was the first time I felt understood. The next morning, I woke up to loud pounding at the door, not knocking, but heavy thuds. Daniel was still asleep, but I looked through the peephole and saw both my parents standing there, desperate and uneasy. I froze in place. That's when everything truly began to fall apart. I didn't open right away. I just stood behind the door, barefoot on the wood floor, heart beating hard. Mom was holding some kind of foil-covered dish, maybe a casserole, maybe a peace gift. Dad kept pacing, restless, looking down the hallway like he expected someone else to show up and fix the problem. "William," Mom called, her voice breaking. "Please, sweetheart, just talk to us." I turned and walked back into the little kitchen. Out of habit, I switched on the kettle. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want some big dramatic fight. I wanted them to sit there in that hallway and feel what I had felt for years, like they were unimportant, like they were only background noise in someone else's celebration. But cruelty isn't natural for me. After several minutes, I cracked the door open but left the chain in place. My expression stayed blank. 3 days, I said softly. 3 days gone, and not one of you noticed. But now you're here. Why now? Mom's eyes filled instantly with tears. Because we didn't realize, William. We thought you were at a friend's place. You've always been so independent. We didn't know you were upset. That word, upset, like I'd had a small problem. Not like I'd been pushed aside and forgotten on my own birthday. Dad stepped forward. "Son, maybe we went about things the wrong way. We wanted to celebrate Jacob since it was a big week for him, but we never intended to make you feel unimportant." "Never intended to," I repeated with a bitter laugh. "You gave him a car and threw him a party. You gave me a mop and a lecture about responsibility. Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds?" They looked at each other, shaken. Mom pressed her lips together. "We thought you wouldn't mind. You've never wanted attention like Jacob does. You're always so quiet." "I'm quiet," I snapped, louder than I planned, because no one listens when I speak. The noise made Daniel stir in his room. I lowered my voice again. "Do you know what it feels like to be invisible in your own house? To carry the load? To work long hours to avoid trouble and still be treated like nothing more than a side note?" Mom reached toward the chain. "We can fix this, William. Please come home. We miss you." "Do you miss me?" I asked coldly. "Or do you miss what I did for you?" Neither of them answered. I shut the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't make it dramatic. I just needed distance. I locked it, leaned my back against it, and slid down to the floor. My chest felt heavy, but it wasn't sadness. It was sharper than that. A moment later, Daniel stepped out, rubbing his eyes. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I just had to get it out." He handed me a mug of tea and sat beside me. "They'll come back," he said. "I know," I whispered. "But next time, they'll be dealing with a different version of me." Later that afternoon, I opened my banking app and checked the shared grocery account, the one I'd been filling for years because Jacob still didn't work. Even after I left, there were charges, gas, Amazon orders, even an upgrade for streaming. I smirked and shut it down. I also stopped my automatic deposits. Then came the flood of group chat messages. "Dad, William, your mom is upset. Please talk to her." "Jacob, bro, this is going too far. They're losing it." "Mom, we love you. Come home. Let's start over." I didn't reply. I chose silence. And that silence began to speak louder than any words ever had. That night, Daniel and I made dinner. It wasn't fancy, just frozen pizza and canned soup, but it felt more like home than the house I grew up in. We laughed about books, swapped dumb high school memories, and talked about what it would take for me to finally apply to college next semester. I realized it had been months, maybe even longer, since I'd had a conversation that actually felt real. Right before I went to bed, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a long text from Mom. She said she'd been looking through old photos and missed the little boy who used to help her bake. She asked if there was any way to repair things. Then came another message, a picture of my room, or what had been my room. Now it was spotless, clean sheets, desk empty, everything neat, like they were preparing for me to return. But it didn't feel like my room anymore. It looked like a space for a guest, not a son, like they were patching up the outside without fixing what was broken inside. I stared at the photo for a long time. That's when I decided something that would change the balance in our family. But before I could act, something unexpected happened. The next morning, I woke up to another string of messages, this time from extended family. My Aunt Linda wrote, "Sweetheart, I just heard what happened. Are you okay? Your mom told me you're going through something, and she's really worried." My cousin Matthew messaged, "Bro, is it true you ran away? Grandma said your parents are heartbroken." That's when it hit me. They were spinning the story. I hadn't run away. I had left calmly, without drama, but that didn't fit their version. So instead of owning up to what they did, forgetting my birthday, treating me like a background character, they were telling everyone I had overreacted, painting me as unstable, ungrateful, dramatic. I sat up in bed, scrolling through the messages, a knot tightening in my stomach. I didn't mind being misunderstood, I'd lived with that for years. But this was different. This was deliberate. This was manipulation. They weren't just rewriting the story, they were turning my life into their excuse. That afternoon, I went to a local cafe, ordered a coffee, and opened my laptop. I hadn't posted anything on social media in months, but this time, I decided to. I uploaded one photo, the mop and bucket, still wrapped in the recycled birthday paper, sitting in the corner where I'd left them the night I walked out. The caption was simple: responsibility, what you give your oldest when he asked for love. Within an hour, the likes started rolling in. Friends from school, old coworkers, even people I barely spoke to anymore commented things like, "This hits hard," and "Been there." Some sent private messages asking if I was okay. But the real moment came when my cousin Emma, someone I hadn't talked to in years, tagged me in a reply, "Wait, that was your birthday gift? Jacob got a car." They posted about it last week like it was some huge family moment. So they had bragged about it online, Facebook, Instagram, probably even the family WhatsApp group I muted years ago. Smiling pictures, proud captions, "So proud of our Jacob." A big milestone for our youngest. During all of this, my name hadn't even been mentioned once. That's when the silence broke. At first, people whispered quietly, sending a message here and there, but soon the questions grew louder, whispers my mom couldn't control. Friends and relatives started asking why she had ignored her oldest son's birthday. Why she told everyone I was struggling when, in reality, she was the one who had failed me. 3 days later, there was another knock on the apartment door, but it wasn't my parents this time. It was my grandmother, Margaret. I hesitated. I didn't know what she wanted. Then I heard her voice through the door, "It's me, William. It's Margaret. I just want to talk." So, I opened the door. She was standing there, holding a tin of butter cookies, the same kind she always gave us around Christmas. She looked smaller than I remembered, but her eyes were sharp as ever. "May I come in?" she asked. I nodded and stepped aside. We sat at the tiny kitchen table, the same one where Daniel and I had eaten ramen and swapped late-night stories. Margaret drew a long breath. "Your mother called me yesterday," she said. "She was crying, saying you've been distant, angry, ungrateful." I kept quiet. "But I know you, William," she continued. "And I know the difference between guilt covered in tears and real truth." That made me look up. I asked her, "Did she tell you what she gave me for my birthday?" Margaret's voice was flat. She wouldn't answer. "So, I called Jacob. He bragged about the car. And when I asked what you got, he laughed." Laughed. My stomach turned. "She didn't lie directly," Margaret went on, "but she twisted things, left out details, and that isn't love. It's shame." I swallowed hard. "Why are you here, Margaret?" "Because I want to help you do this the right way," she said softly. "You're standing at a turning point. Don't waste it on anger. Be deliberate. Make them see." I stared at the cookie tin between us for a long time before asking, "Would you be upset if I stepped away from the family? Really stepped away?" Margaret smiled gently. "The only thing that would upset me is if you let them pull you back before you learn what you need to." Her words hit me deeper than I expected. But before that, I had one more thing to prepare. I didn't answer Dad's text, not because I didn't have words, but because silence said, "You went too far." That phrase kept circling in my mind all night, like a scratched record stuck in place. Too far for what? For standing up for myself? For refusing to stay in a role I never chose, the fixer, the ignored one, the backup? It had always been the same. If Jacob messed up, it was excused with, "Boys will be boys." If I missed a chore, a deadline, a call, I got a lecture about gratitude and discipline. And now that I had finally drawn a line, they were furious that I dared move it at all. But I was finished letting them hold the pen. This time, I would write my own story. For the first time in my life, I stopped asking what they expected from me and started asking what I needed for myself. The very first step was cutting every financial connection I still had with them. The grocery account was only the beginning. I remembered how, 2 years earlier, Mom had convinced me to co-sign a secondary line on her internet and utility bills because of a family emergency. It was supposed to be temporary, but my name was still attached. So, I called the company, confirmed my identity, and had myself officially removed. Next was the health insurance plan. I had stayed on it just to save Mom money, even though I could have gone through my job. I canceled it. After that, I opened a brand new bank account and moved all my savings there, away from the one they still had access to. I was determined not to leave even a single opening for guilt trips, tricks, or "help us just this once" excuses. That version of me no longer existed. 2 weeks passed. Daniel mentioned I seemed to be sleeping better. Margaret came by again, bringing homemade banana bread. She sat with me while I sorted through college applications. She didn't ask if I was going back. She didn't even mention my parents. But my parents stayed quiet until I got a call from Jacob. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. "Hey," he said, sounding strangely cheerful. "So, I guess I owe you an apology." I didn't answer. "Look, I didn't know you were this upset," he continued. "I thought you were just overreacting. You've always been kind of sensitive." I nearly hung up right then, but I let him finish. "Anyway," he said, "Mom and Dad are freaking out. They're talking about therapy and family meetings and stuff, and Dad said you cut all ties. Is that true?" "It is," I replied calmly. There was silence, then, "Oh, well, what about the car situation?" "What about it?" I asked. "I mean, you co-signed part of the down payment through that joint savings thing," Jacob said. I shut my eyes. I had completely forgotten. Last year, when my parents wanted to trade in the old minivan, they asked if they could use my savings account as a temporary balance to qualify for a better loan. I agreed, like I always did, because I trusted them. But now that money was already under review. "I filed a fraud claim 2 days ago," I told him. "The funds were moved without my full consent. The bank is investigating." Jacob went quiet, then let out a sharp laugh. "You're really doing all this over a mop?" I almost laughed back. Almost. But the sadness hit harder than the joke. "This was never about the mop," I said softly. "It was about being treated like a stranger in my own family for years." He sighed. "They're going to lose it when the bank calls." "I'm sure they will," I replied. "But they won't be calling me." And then I hung up. That night, everything finally came pouring out, not anger, grief. Grief for the family I thought I had. For the birthdays where no one remembered, for the Christmas presents that were clearly recycled, for the soccer games where I cheered for Jacob while no one showed up for mine. I cried harder than I had in years. Daniel just sat beside me on the floor, quietly handing me tissues without saying anything. But when I woke up the next morning, it felt like a fog had lifted. My head was clear. I felt lighter. I decided to visit the house one last time, not to talk, not to reconcile, just to see it, to remind myself why I walked away. I took the bus since I had returned the car keys 2 weeks earlier. Walking down the old street, memories rushed back: the oak tree I used to climb with Jacob, the cracked driveway we covered in chalk drawings, the mailbox still patched with duct tape from when Jacob ran it over with his scooter and blamed the wind. And then I saw them, my parents, outside, loading a box into the car. Mom spotted me first. Her face lit up, like I was the lost son returning home. "William," she shouted, running toward me. "Oh, thank God." I lifted a hand to stop her. "I'm not here to talk," I said evenly. "I just came to see the house." Dad walked around from the side, arms folded tightly. "You've made your point," he said stiffly. "Are you satisfied now?" "Not satisfied," I answered. "But I'm finally at peace." Mom's face fell apart. "Please, William. We never meant to hurt you. We didn't realize." "That's the problem," I said. "You never realized. You never asked. You just assumed I'd always be there." I glanced at the house, the porch swing where I once sat alone after my high school graduation when they left early just to avoid traffic, the front step where they proudly snapped Jacob's prom pictures, forgetting I even existed. The memories were there, but none of them warm. "I'll be leaving the city in a few weeks," I said. "I'm starting college on the other side of the state. I've already signed a lease. Margaret helped me with it." Dad's expression stiffened at the mention of her. "And no," I continued, "you're not coming to move me in. This chapter belongs to me." They stayed quiet. I turned to walk away but paused. "One last thing," I said, pulling an envelope from my coat. "Inside is a record of every expense I covered over the last 5 years: rent, groceries, utilities, even part of the car down payment. I'm not asking for payback. I just want recognition. Read it. Sit with it. Maybe then you'll understand why I left." I placed it in Mom's trembling hands, then walked away. 3 months later, I moved into a small college apartment with Daniel as my roommate. Margaret sent me a houseplant with a handwritten note that said, "May your home always feel like yours." I pinned it above my desk. I blocked my parents' numbers, not out of spite, but for my own protection. If they ever wanted to rebuild something, it would take more than crying. It would take honesty. It would take effort. But I wasn't waiting around for it. For the first time in my life, I didn't need their permission, their money, or their affection to feel whole. I created something of my own, from the ruins, from the silence, from the shadows they pushed me into. And when people ask me why I walked away, I tell them this: Jacob was given a car and a celebration. I was handed a mop and a lecture. So, I returned the favor. I gave them nothing. And from that nothing, I finally became everything I was meant to be.